Hey everybody over at Libertarian All Stars, my favorite group ever. It's Ant-Man, your favorite ant. Anyway, right now I'm standing in St. Paul's Church. It's actually the graveyard of St. Paul's Church, downtown Manhattan. Believe it or not, this is the location where George Washington came to pray. And if you see that church behind me, that church is exactly the same as it was when George Washington was in there. And you can see the graveyard behind me. The gravestones go back to some of them the 1500s. A lot of them have Masonic symbols on them. You know, back then there were a lot of the founders were Freemasons. Now the funny thing about this place, and I'll tell you a little story that I know. See right behind me right there, that crazy looking thing? That's called the Oculus. And that's the New World Trade Center. This is where the towers stood. So right behind the church where George Washington came to pray, he actually was on the land that was owned by the church. So what I'm trying to say is the land that the Twin Towers stood on was owned by this church that's still standing here today. This was the only building, even though it's the oldest building in the whole area. It was from the 1600s. It was the only building with absolutely no damage. There's no damage to the tombstones, no damage to anything on this part of the property. However, the two towers went down. Now, you know, you could say that George Washington could have been protected. I think he was. I think him coming here was a sign. You know, he actually was inaugurated first president of the United States in 1894, I believe. You guys could fact check me on that. And he walked from Wall Street, Federal Hall, right, only a few blocks up here, St. Paul's Church, which is right there. It's snowing out today. And he prayed with his congregation. Thomas Jefferson was there. Benjamin Franklin, there's reports saying he couldn't make it because his legs were bad. I've also heard reports that he was there. He was in New York a lot. Who knows? I'm not sure. Yeah, I wasn't around back then. Were you? But it's just an amazing place. It's almost a providential place. A very important place in American history, if you think about it. We were attacked by basically a demonic entity, radical Islam. You know, they've been financed by, you know, Skull and Bones and even the CIA. You know, the people like that. I've talked about it on the group. But this place where George Washington prayed, he prayed to God for America at this location, and it was not touched. It was the only building, only property not touched, and it was the oldest one. Nothing happened to it. It was completely saved, and it's immediately, look at that, immediately across from where the buildings were. That's brand new. That building collapsed. That's World Trade Center 1. World Trade Center 7 was right there that went down. The two towers were kind of in between right there. Then you had World Trade Center 10. This whole complex was the whole World Trade Center area. So it's just a little story, a little history that I know. I do think that George Washington and the Founding Fathers were divinely inspired. And they knew the hidden knowledge. They knew the occult knowledge. They knew the Masonic knowledge. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Masons. They hid the knowledge because, you know, if you ever watch those old, you know, spy movies where the scientist goes, you know, this information, you know, this science could be used for either great power or it could be used for great evil. Well, this hidden knowledge that they know about and a lot of people know about is being used for both good and evil as we speak. And it's a great time to be alive. Donald Trump, I think, is keyed into this. I don't think he's into the occult. However, I think he does understand that it's really a spiritual thing going on right now. Anyway, I just got out of court. I was innocent, believe it or not, but I had to take a plea deal. I didn't want to have to go to court for 6 months. I knew they didn't have any proof that I did anything wrong. I'm not going to go into the details about what happened, but I had to take a plea deal. So I get a scar in my record for something that I didn't do. Even though I pled to my lawyer, she said, listen, you know, with your seizures and everything, you're sick. You know, look at my head. I was in the ICU last week. That scar right here is from the train. I don't know if I told you guys about the train accident. I think some of you know about it. But what a wonderful time to be alive, right? All right, I figured I'd send a video out to you guys at LAS because I love you guys, and I thank Lewis and Ian for you know, running things over there. They're good kids. Those kids, they're very good kids. I would recommend those kids, you know, to anybody who is looking for a set of kids. They're good kids. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Maybe I'll do another one of these. Maybe not. Let me know what you think. But I know a lot about history, and I know a lot about the kind of secret kind of stuff that you don't hear about history. So I guess over and out, and you know, just make sure, you know, you keep the guy up there happy. There's something looking down right now, because what's happening wouldn't happen. Donald Trump would not be president. Who would ever think that Donald Trump, he's delivering on every single thing that he said he was going to do, and he's doing it fast, and he's doing more. And of course they're complaining about it, but you know what? They can't say that he's not fulfilling his promises, because he is. And the American people spoke. We don't have to worry about anything. They're going to be crybabies. They're going to be pacified by the left. All the programs and all the crap coming out from Soros administration and the Rockefellers and all that garbage. You know, these people want to become robots. It's a fact. They want to dehumanize people. But we're humans. You know, humans should go out to space. Humans should do things like that. We should populate the entire universe. I think that's what God wants us to do. But anyway, I'm gonna get going. I'm in the snow. It's a little cold. My nose is getting red. That's not a good sign, because that means I'm getting cold. But anyway, that's the church where George Washington prayed with his congregation directly after his inauguration. He walked from Federal Hall on Wall Street right up Broadway to St. Paul's Church. It's still here. The land was owned exclusively downtown here by St. Paul's Church, and eventually the World Trade Center was built on their land, and by Providence everything else was destroyed, but the church stood. So what do you think about that?